So, local news estimates that Hurricane Helene was the worst storm that my county has experienced since the 1910s. That means that it's been over a century since we've had flooding and wind like this. I personally have never seen anything like the destruction I saw last week. Nothing even close. When we eventually did have to go out again, I spent about 4 hours on a drive that would normally take me about 45 minutes, almost all spent trying to find any route through the city that hadn't been blocked by gigantic trees or fallen power lines or flooding. We saw cars that were submerged up to their windows, ambulances from halfway across the state towing emergency rescue boats, sinkholes that looked like something out of a superhero movie, houses and businesses that had been utterly destroyed by fallen trees and wind and floodwater. Tons and tons and tons of people moving on foot through horrible conditions trying to get to one of the couple convenience stores that had been opened up again. And, of course, undercover cop cars that were still trying to catch people speeding in spite of the emergency. Even as I write this, I hear FEMA helicopters in the distance delivering supplies and evacuating people. Luckily, our house is on a hill, so we've mostly been safe, but all around us there's just destruction. I've never had a storm that knocked out my cell service before, but as near as I can tell, everybody in town's been relying on word of mouth and radio to communicate any of these conditions to one another. I have no idea if my biological family is safe right now, though I have reason to assume that they are, and they have no idea if I'm safe, although they have reason to assume that I'm not. A couple of things need to be established before we move forward. So, my fiancé and I have basically taken in these two kids, a 19-year-old boy and a 20-year-old girl, and have started raising them as our own, basically. Everything from helping them with doctor's appointments to teaching them how to fix a car to giving them the kinds of life lessons that their biological families really should have been teaching them. While tomorrow's video is going to be exploring this dynamic in a bit more detail, for now you should just take it as read that my fiancé and I are mothers in all but an official, legal capacity. Anyways, back to the journal. The Fount family and I have been really scared for a couple days now, with the three eldest, which includes myself, kind of taking charge and trying to make sure that everything is handled, leaving buckets out to collect rain so that we can use it to flush the toilets, making sure the kids know that they should be eating perishable foods first, things like that. To be honest, times like this actually kind of remind me of Star Trek, specifically the idea of the captain needing to project confidence no matter how scared or hopeless they are so that their crew can be at their best. Believe me when I say that I have been scared out of my mind. I spent like 5 hours straight on day 2 just out here in the wind, just staring at that tree, listening to the echoes of all the other trees falling around all over the neighborhood, hoping to God that my home wasn't about to be destroyed. This tree very well could have fallen and just crushed all of our dreams. I saw a ton of larger trees that had been knocked down, but when my son woke me up in the middle of the night with a panic attack after his ceiling started leaking water, you can bet that I was swallowing all of that fear and telling him that it was going to be okay and that the bamboo was eating up all the wind, only to just return to flinching at every single noise and shaking like a puppy on the 4th of July the second I got out of his sight. It's funny how parts of your mind, like fear, can just go completely dormant when you have to take action in extreme circumstances like a panic attack. My station amongst all of this has been to pretend like I know what I'm doing. I know a little bit about emergency situations, but most of my job here has just been improvising measures, like filling up the fridge with all our drinks so that it takes longer for everything to warm up once the power goes out, all while forgetting basic steps like filling up the sinks and bathtubs so that we don't have to rely on rainwater to flush toilets. It's all done with the intent of making the kids feel like I thought of everything so that they'll hopefully trust me when I tell them to not try to go to work and to make sure all their devices are at 100% battery power until the second the power goes out. I don't really know what I'm doing in a situation like this, but I need the kids to think I do, because however scared I am, they're going to be twice as scared if I show it. Luckily for me, I have my fiancé, and she's someone that I can be scared around without worrying about giving her a panic attack. On the night of day 2, when the power was out, we finally went to bed only to realize that the small amount of moonlight coming through the window wasn't enough to penetrate that pure, uncanny blackness filling our bedroom. I'm not someone who's really afraid of the dark whatsoever, but when it's pure blackness to where I can't even see my hands an inch away from my face like that, I just get extremely uncomfortable. That level of darkness just does not exist in nature, at least not above ground. Frankly, it's way too freaky for me, and it makes me feel like I'm tripping balls, and makes me incredibly claustrophobic to boot. So, as anxious and on edge as she was, My fiancé fashioned a little nightlight for me out of a solo cup and a flashlight, and it was the first time since I started work on that previous video, Honesty, that I slept without any nightmares. Found family has been a pretty prevalent theme in a lot of my videos this year, and while tomorrow's video is going to be all about my found family experience, this whole hurricane thing has been an incredible affirmation of all the things I feel for these people. The protectiveness and nurturing spirit I feel for the kids, the safety and trust that I place in my fiancé, the codependence and camaraderie I feel with the fifth one, let's call her my sister. It's easy to say we're a family, we can get through anything together when times are good, but to see us working together and acting as a family when things are this scary has been a really incredible experience. Honestly, given the fact that flooding isn't an issue that we have to worry about at this particular house, this whole thing has kind of felt like a camping trip to me. And as regular viewers will know, camping is something that I have desperately missed ever since my handicap took hold and made it impossible for me to do normally again. For all the fear and destruction and chaos and uncertainty, this whole experience has been extremely nostalgic for me too. Making shadow puppets and playing my guitar to try and fill the house with music, seeing more stars in the sky than I ever have before with the lights being off all over the region, not being able to distract myself from my situation with the internet or video games, even just resigning myself to not being able to shave my legs. Somehow, all of these horrifying circumstances have given way to an incredibly meditative, emotionally fulfilling headspace for myself. When you know that there's nothing you can do but try to enjoy the moment and find peace in your surroundings, all the world's pressures tend to just melt away. And to be able to share that experience of fear giving way to emotional triumph with a family who loves me and who I love so dearly, it's made me feel like I really made it in this life. I never thought I'd have anything like what I have with these people. I never thought I'd be relied upon and trusted like this. I never thought I'd see that many stars and get to share them with a fiancé who finds just as much meaning in them as I do. I never thought I'd feel this much love from so many people at once. I never thought I'd go camping again.
It seems like the better I feel about our situation, the more stressed my daughter is. Last night, we were trying to get up to my parents' house to tell them that we're okay and make sure they're okay. Luckily, we were able to find a path and make sure everybody was safe, but on the way up their road, we managed to get service again. We immediately pulled over to send all of our relevant messages to all the folk who were worried about us, and I sent out a tweet or two letting all of y'all know that we were alive and safe. When we got to my dad's house, we had our prayers answered. We were hoping that they'd have power and we could take a shower and top off our charges. No luck there, but what we did get was a propane tank and a camping stove, plus a couple solar lanterns. After hanging around at my parents' place for a bit, we rushed home and debated looting a destroyed dollar store. Still might end up doing that tonight. And cooked up some ramen noodles and soup cans. First hot meal we'd had in a couple of days. Only issue is, our phone service went out very quickly after it came back in. Not the end of the world, we got our messages out to everybody that we needed to, but that's not quite how my daughter saw it. See, part of the reason I feel comfortable calling a 20-year-old my daughter is because she had a seriously stunted upbringing. She was in an online school up until she graduated and lived out in the sticks, so she never really had the means to make too many friends in real life because she lived in such a secluded place and spent the first 16 years of her life with no social company but her abusive uncle and her grandma, who was well past the end of her rope at that point, and the folks that she met online. She basically saw herself as a netrunner, or I guess an engram from Cyberpunk, only ever existing on the net, and that's the sole means by which she was able to interface with the world. She called it her digital haunt. I still remember just how overwhelmed she was when she first got here to this town, because it was her first time having solid proof that the people she meets in her computer are real people, and that there are places other than her hometown in her digital haunt. This experience has shown me just how badly we need to start working with her on all of that. First thing this morning, she told me that her and my son planned on driving up north, basically just aimlessly searching for propane and cell service. Mind you, we've been getting service in and out ever since last night, and we've got plenty of propane to last us the next 4 or 5 days by my estimate. So, in my morning grouchiness, it seemed to me like she was planning on potentially getting lost up north just to send out a few more texts. That isn't really the full story. As I said, my sleepy, grouchy mind kind of oversimplified the situation. I know that there's a lot more going on in her head when she's making these plans than that, but I snapped at her a little bit, and I feel super bad about that. I suppose I should just be happy that the kids didn't decide to just leave without telling us like they did attempting to go to work the day before. It's a bad situation, though. My dad says that we should expect to not have power for another 10 days. I'm a bit more optimistic than that, but I'm still trying to figure out if telling the kids that number is the right call or not. If my daughter's this stressed about things on day 3 of the blackout, I genuinely don't know how manic she'll be hearing that it could be 10 days or more. I gave my son a little talk about how to help his sister keep her head on straight, but it's clear that being disconnected like this has been just violent for her psyche. There's a lot of specific trauma for her centered around the people she grew up with all flipping off all the breakers to get the upper hand in a shouting match, so being without any light is something that's really triggering her anxiety. It's something that's got to be handled with a lot of care and over a much longer period of time than this destruction is hopefully going to last. Resupplying on food is going to be an issue we have to address, though. I'd like to think that if we can keep it to one hearty meal a day, we'll be able to stretch our resources long enough that we can wait for the supply chain to restabilize a little bit, but we may very well have to loot that dollar store, like I said. With all the card readers down all over town and the last of the cash money having been spent, it might be our only option if it stays like this for a couple more days. It's far from the end of the world if we do end up having to loot some food and candles that were just going to be thrown in a corporate dumpster anyways, but the name of the game is not taking any unnecessary risks, and there's definitely some risks involved with looting. Like the night before with the stars, the night of day 3 was really fun for me, though. When my dad was heading to bed, we saw that he had a fire going outside with just enough embers to potentially start it up again, so we put about an hour's worth of logs on there and just enjoyed the warmth for a little bit. Talked to the kids about camping, and our poor girl was adamantly opposed to the idea, seemingly traumatized at the prospect of being off the grid even for a night. Managed to convince her to let us set up a tent in the yard one of these nights, once everything's back to normal, so she can try it out under less scary circumstances. Once we got home, we set up the propane stove and cooked some food, and between the fun of cooking with an unconventional setup and how badly I've missed camping, it felt really damn nice to have the whole family sat around a pot and a flame, singing songs with my guitar, just enjoying the pure ecstasy of having warm food in us for the first time in 3 days of nothing but cold, uncooked food. As wholesome and loving as the whole situation felt to my fiancé and I, it was clear that my daughter was incredibly anxious about it all, though. I really, really hope she feels a bit better tomorrow night, but her anxiety's so bad, even when everything is normal, that I can't help but worry she's convinced we're all going to be dead by the end of the night. Well, day 4 went way better than I thought it would when I finished up that last journal entry. My fiancée was woken up hours early, being called into work ahead of schedule when she really wanted to just stay here and help the family. She was not in a good mood whatsoever over this, but in order to improve her mood a bit, we sat the family around for a while her and I read chapters from The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy to everybody. It was super sweet. Next thing I know, she's at work, and the kids and I are going to the gas station that our daughter works at to try and stock up on snack food and cigarettes. We kind of just needed a win. Well, a win we got. The store was open, and they were finally accepting debit cards, so cash money wasn't a problem anymore. I wound up getting a carton of cigarettes for my fiancé and I, and all the snacks that we possibly could have needed for the next couple of days, as well as plenty of snacks for my fiancé. Unfortunately, junk food was really all that was available at the store, so restocking on actual meals is something that, at the time, we still needed to do, as much as we possibly can. But in the meantime, spirits were high, and tasty snacks were all around us. We just had to stop at my dad's house to grab a couple other things that he wanted to give us. On the way there, my son was on the phone with his biological dad, being misgendered and disrespected left, right, and center, all while being told to ditch us and go stay with him for a couple weeks. Hearing my son say, no, these guys are my family, I can't leave them to his flesh and blood, and then defend himself against the misgendering when his dad wouldn't let it go was really amazing. He's come such a long way when it comes to standing up for himself. Needless to say, though, he was pretty bummed about it all.
I sent my dad a text ahead of our arrival saying something along the lines of, "Hey, I know it's still a little weird for you, but I think our boy could really benefit from hearing you call him your grandson tonight. Things have been super rough with his biological family lately." Dad didn't quite feel comfortable calling this guy that he'd only met a couple of times before his grandson, but he put so much effort into making my kids feel like they had that familial love. Dad was showing my son how to poke at the fireplace, just like he did when I was a kid, and listening intently as my daughter info-dumped to him about her creepypastas and her writing. It really was just the sweetest thing ever. I even heard my son say yes sir to my dad a couple times. And of course, on our way to go out and bring the cigarettes to my fiance's work, he hugged my parents, calling them grandma and grandpa. My daughter even said that my dad was, quote, everything she thought her uncle was when she was a kid. It was the first time that I'd seen my daughter smile since this whole thing started. In spite of her chronic anxiety, she looked totally relaxed sat by that fire with my dad. More relaxed than I've seen her in like over a year, to be honest. My son has always been really on board with the found family stuff, with us being his moms and helping him mature and learn to handle adulthood. But this was, I think, the first time that my daughter really started to see that there isn't just security, fun, and trust in family, but love. Obviously, she knows that we love her, but I think her preconceptions about herself have made that really difficult for her to accept. This time, though, it looked like she could really feel the love coming from these new extensions to her family. Seeing how happy my fiancé was with the giant bag of sweets and cigarettes I gave her at work was just the icing on the cake to my day. Day 4 started out really rough, but man, it ended incredibly. We even got gas for the 5th family member's car.
However, storm clouds loom over the horizon, and not the same type of storm clouds which started this whole thing. In a couple hours, I'm going to be meeting my son's biological father for the first time, and I'm going to be having a talk with him. My only real goal is to set a good impression so he knows that his son, even if he doesn't consider himself to have a son, is in good hands. However, I also hope to get a chance to really talk with him about transitioning. I very seriously doubt that I have the people skills to fix the relationship between a trans man and a transphobic father in the hour or two that we're going to have together, but goddammit, I have to try. I have to show him how his lack of acceptance makes my boy feel, how unloved he feels. I need to show him that accepting his son's transition is a condition of mutual love that is completely impossible to circumvent. If I can't pull it off, then at least I'll know I tried, but the shower that we were promised at that house is far from my first priority when I take the kids over there in a few hours. I'll report back and let you know how it goes. If last night was the beginning of a change in our luck, then I suppose I can only hope for the best and, as always, prepare for the worst. Well, I didn't get a chance to talk to his dad. He was absent. That sure didn't stop the showers from being the most amazing thing I've ever experienced, though. I never, ever, ever, ever want to go half of that time without a shower again. I sent a few texts to our boy's father, though. I invited him to have a meal at our house to get to know us, offered to help him learn a little bit about transgender folk, and had a little back and forth between his adamance in having a say in his child's gender and me desperately pleading with him to listen to his son's feelings and not try to stamp out his agency as an adult, because that's the only thing that's going to preserve their relationship at this point. While I love seeing him as my son, I really don't want him to have to lose a parent. On that note, a big theme of last night was me trying to help the kids feel the family love by visiting with my parents, and so I brought the boy over to visit my folks again. Him and my biological sister got into a little fight, just one or two things exchanged. He said something that touched on some baggage that my sister was carrying that he wasn't privy to, and she snapped at him for it, seriously hurting his feelings. It was the first time they'd met. I asked her to fill me in on what happened, and then I asked her to talk with him about it and explain why she was so offended by what he said, and she refused. It was kind of emotional. At that moment, I felt like I could just see the writing on the wall. My biological family just isn't capable of talking about their problems in an adult way, seemingly. Shortly thereafter, my son told me that he wasn't super comfortable with trying to see my biological family as his family. He just wasn't comfortable with the tension he felt in the air with my bio family, and told me that he would prefer they not become such a big part of his life. That must have been horrifying for him to say, especially since it was very clear that making him feel some family love was my whole motivation in bringing him there, but he told me how he felt, regardless of his fear. This 19-year-old boy had the emotional maturity to confront his 26-year-old mother figure when he wasn't comfortable with something. Meanwhile, my sister, who's even older than me, wasn't comfortable confronting a 19-year-old. I almost cried with happiness and pride and crawled down and told my parents that we had to go now. That self-respect, that willingness to talk about uncomfortable subjects in the name of reaching a resolution, I can't help but feel like that's something that we instilled in the boy. We're the ones who taught him how to do that. That's exactly what I was talking about in the honesty video that I published just before this one. This is why my found family, young though its bonds may be, kind of already feels stronger than my biological family ever has. My biological family's stuck together. My found family has grown together. That distinction makes me so incredibly proud. Like, I found my own little piece in this universe. Like, I've created for myself the type of life and relationships that I've always wanted but thought were just impossible, especially for me. On the way home, power had been restored at a gas station that's only a minute or two up the road from our house, so I expect that we'll have power within the next 24 hours, and my journal will end there. In the meantime, though, we've got plenty of water, plenty of food, plenty of propane, and a decent amount of gasoline. Honestly, things couldn't be going any better. I just hope that we can reach some sort of understanding with the boy's father. Things stabilized a little after day 4. On the morning of day 5, we managed to get a great haul from a grocery store that had its doors open again that morning, so we had ample candles, water, food. Things stopped changing quite so much every day. The situation wasn't as dynamic. Everyone had their ups and downs, but a routine of sorts had started to form. My fiancé would cook us all breakfast in the mornings, and we'd all sit around on the porch listening to my guitar and cooking soup around the propane stove at night. Unfortunately, the power still hasn't come back on, so we still have to be incredibly tactical about how we flush the toilets and keep the dishes clean. In fact, just last night our boy's head was so itchy that I had to wash his hair on the porch with nothing but a lot of water and a cup and some shampoo. To be honest, I kind of hope that the power stays out long enough that I get the opportunity to do that with everybody in the house. It was a really sweet little motherhood moment. Today, though, I've got another thing on my mind. The boy's dad quit replying to my texts on day 4, and called him, suddenly having changed his mind on me being able to handle the brake job that the boy needs. So, I guess trans women can only fix a car if they haven't also tried to talk to you about your child's gender. God, I shudder to think about the fact that he probably assumes I'm a liberal and not an actual leftist. Well, whatever, I know how to fix a car. To start out the day, my son and I took the daughter to work and went to grab some sandwiches now that Chick-fil-A has opened up again. Then we got to work on his car. Teaching him how to change his brakes and being able to have that classic experience of asking my kids to fetch tools for me was yet another super sweet feeling. We got the brakes on, and during the test drive I took it on before I handed the keys back to him, we decided to go back to his biological father's house for another shower. After all, both of us were absolutely filthy with automotive dirt, and just washing our hands proved to be difficult while trying to ration the water. To be honest, I was surprised that his dad was still okay with me going over there after he quit replying to my texts and tried to wrestle control of the brake job situation back from his son. The shower was, just as it was 5 days ago, incredible. It was just the boy and I who went over there this time, and everyone else was asleep or at work. We managed to get a load of laundry done too, but as the clothes were beginning to dry, the moment we were both anxious to avoid was met. As we were sitting on the couch waiting for the dryer, the boy's dad got home. Well, he might have been avoiding my text, but now, for the first time, we were face to face. I braced myself for confrontation, yet I was met with none. This stranger, who his son is willing to call family, was sitting on his couch and he just ignored me. Didn't even make eye contact.
The last thing I told him over text was that I've seen families of almost every trans person I know be driven apart by parental transphobia, and that if you force someone to choose between their identity and their family, they'll almost always choose their identity. He chose to ignore those texts, and he chose to ignore me now in person, too. Well, that didn't sit right with me. Regardless of how much I wanted to talk to him about accepting his son's transition, I also just needed to thank him for the shower, and so I approached him. To be honest, I was scared shitless and extremely uncomfortable with the situation. My fiancé and I have essentially taken over as parents to this man's son, and the boy has told me adamantly what his boundaries with his dad are. He doesn't want his dad to try and manipulate him into getting away from us, because we make him feel safe and hopeful in ways that his dad just doesn't. So, while the dad brought up all sorts of different scenarios in which the two of them would be alone together, I, one after the other, swallowed my fear and cordially kept control in the hands of our son and myself. You want to take him to the mechanic to get his brakes done? Oh, no need. He helped me change his brakes this morning. You want him to go to a doctor's appointment with you? Oh, that would be his chest x-ray. It was a follow-up to the appointment I took him to get the inhaler for his asthma. Don't worry, we'll handle that. Gotta say, I'm surprised that you never helped him get an inhaler before this moment. You know, when he sticks his tongue out, it's because he's having trouble breathing, right? Oh, you want us to come over and eat at your place now? No, that's alright. You work hard. You should just come over to our place, and my fiancé and I can make you a nice, home-cooked meal. Frankly, it was one of the most emotionally intense situations I've been in this year. I felt absolutely fucking horrible for what happened in that apartment today. I know that from his perspective, his quote-unquote daughter is just trying to cut him out of the picture over some silly fad that's like cross-dressing or something. And here I was drawing a line in the sand between the two of them in his own kitchen. That is probably how he saw it, I'd imagine. The reality of the situation, though, is that he's become a borderline absentee father and is adamant to stop his son from making his own decisions as an adult, and driven a wedge between the two of them to the point where the son is more comfortable and feels more at home with my fiancé and I than he does him, and I was trying my absolute hardest to stop him from driving the wedge between them even deeper by trying to take control away from his son in situations where he's clearly demonstrated he's okay and capable of wielding control responsibly. Our son has chosen his dad to be one of the only biological family members he leaves the door open to. And as painful and unfair as it felt for me to play the role that I played in today's conversation, my entire motivation was to make my son feel safe around his father so that he would keep that door open. Still, with the conversation done, I was a little shook, to say the least. The man was nearly twice my age, and all the while my hair was still drying from the shower he so graciously let me take at his house. That was a lot. I think I did the right thing. My son's gratitude for how I handled the situation speaks volumes to me, but I don't think I'm ever going to get over how morally gray today felt. That's something I can ponder in bed, though. I'm f***ing starving. Well, this morning, the power flickered on for half a second. 4 hours later, I was still trying to hold faith that I didn't just imagine it all when the whole house lit up again. Fans whirred to life, the soft hum of the refrigerator filled the kitchen, and this subtle electrical orchestra that I had long since tuned out was once again crystal clear to me. I'd forgotten how many things just buzzed and clicked and hummed away in the background in a normal house. It felt damn good to be able to plug in my phone, but somehow, seeing all those lights I had so intricately strung up around the porch lit up again just made me sad. Even though I'm a YouTuber and easily the one who's most into video games in the house, this whole hurricane just left me surprised to see that I'm probably the least technology dependent on anyone in the house. While, yeah, flushing a toilet whenever I want and knowing that whatever happens, warm food and a shower are never too far away is really calming, there was a part of me that just didn't want to go back. This has been a really scary couple of weeks. One of the scariest of my life, but we all grew so much closer over the course of it. Reading a book to the family, sitting around a gas stove playing guitar and singing songs, just talking with nobody staring at their phones, sharing the joy of a warm meal when such things were not guaranteed, washing my son's hair by hand with nothing but a cup and a lot of water, my fiancé holding me in bed as the shadows surrounding us crept closer and closer with the flickering of the candle, watching our daughter get more and more comfortable without the internet. seeing the night sky blackened like nothing I'd ever seen in nature before the absence of electric lights, and sharing those stars with the woman I love. Well, my list of responsibilities and worries has never been as dense as it was over these last 2 weeks, but man, that was one of the most special weeks of my entire life. Whatever happens moving forward, now that things are somewhat resembling normalcy once again, I'm gonna talk to the family about having an offline day once a week where we live like this again. No phones, just a fire with some food cooking over it, singing songs together to the tune of my guitar, just simply loving each other without any of the complications that come with worrying about maximizing our dopamine dosage with a bit of social media. While I know that thousands and thousands of people lost so much, in some cases even everything, as a result of this destruction, my family and I wound up in a more fortunate, more privileged position, and I'm not going to deny myself my gratitude for that fact. As stressful as this whole experience has been, I can't think of a single thing that we've really lost amidst all of the destruction, but I can think of a million things we gained. And while this might lock me in as the boring mom of the family, you can bet your ass I'm going to be fighting to keep those things from leaving our household as we settle back into normal, modern life. This right here, this tribulation and this triumph over it, is what family's all about. I'm gonna go order us all a pizza now that I can do that again. Yo, y'all still doing deliveries? Okay, can we get a large pizza with, thin crust with
pepperonis.
Okay, pepperoni.
I'll have whatever Shotty's having.
Okay, shoddy.
Olives?
Okay, olives and babe?
Mushrooms, please.
Mushrooms and sausage. 45 minutes? Okay, word, yeah, let me get that for you. So, 4, 3... Okay, if you will pardon the messy bedroom, let me go ahead and do my patron read. Although before I get into that, there's some stuff I want to say. One, like I said in that last video that wasn't really a normal video, just sorry it took so long to get this out. I had another video I was working on, but the hurricane turned out to be such a, creatively inspiring situation. Sorry, my squeaky chair. Such a creatively inspiring situation that I couldn't not talk about it. There's going to be another video tomorrow if I do everything how I want to do it, so hopefully that'll make up for the drought. Oh, and an update to something I talked about in the video over the time I spent editing this and doing my post-processing and all that. Well, the boy's dad seems to have taken the first step to, like, really coming around about his transition, so that was really f***ing great to hear. It's something he did for himself, too. He just, finally had the guts to draw a line in the sand, let's say, and I couldn't be prouder of him. And I guess I should also just say again, for the people who didn't watch through that whole hour-something long video, of me playing Death Stranding, how much I appreciate it. To some of you who have stuck around, all of you who stuck around. There have been a lot of videos I uploaded that resulted in a lot of people unsubscribing, but while the last, proper, normal main video was the first time I ever gave people, like, a valid reason to start hating me, I guess. And, seeing that there were people out there willing to, listen to my whole story and make their own judgments, it means the world to me. I don't know where I'd be without you guys.
But, in lighter news, you might have noticed the outro to this video looked especially good, same with the low light shot of me laying in that bed with the candles. About halfway through shooting this video, just in time to do those 2 shots, unfortunately no more, I got myself a new lens, a 1.2 aperture lens. So for those who are not film savvy, that little hole in the middle, that's about how big it is on my default lens that I was shooting on. This is how big the lens gets on this one. That's called the aperture, and this is a 1.2 aperture, which is, I think, as low as it goes on normal camera lenses. What that means is I can shoot in extremely low light without having to boost the values in post, basically, or use ISO. So my low light footage isn't going to be grainy anymore. It also has beautiful depth of field, as you saw in that outro shot just then. I'm hoping to film a whole lot less stuff just on the set, like the old green screen and the LED head chair and all that. Hoping to get more out in the world with my videos. So been investing little bits here and there. The lens. I got myself the cheapest little tablet in the world. It's from a company called Baibuo. I don't even know. But it works for a teleprompter, and that's all it has to do. Just little things to make it easier to pack up everything I need to go and go film and not overcomplicate it. This giant cart used to be what I was tethered to anywhere I wanted to film. Not anymore. So hopefully we can see more videos where I'm out and about and changing environments, not just with the green screen, but literally being in different places as I film. However, it's already been 4 minutes, and this is already a pretty long video, so let's get to the patron read. As always, I would like to give an extra special thanks to all of the patrons, especially those who donate $10 or more monthly, such as Swatchbox, Pirate Punkass, Stormy, Mintius Miranda, Low Terralia, Uber Blizzard, Kylus, Chain Ghost, Chloe R, Thea Westfall, Autumn Hawk, Ian Lester, yeah, probably Ion Lester, River Moon, Cecile, Marcy, Neolunatics, Chase Cares, Olive, Agatha Sorceress, Rogue Planet, Lovely Lila, Huntikar, Catalina Acadre, Vivian Ling, Clover Blake, I Eat Teeth, Edelsis, Bree, Stephanie Starfire, Scott Edwards, Pumpkin, David Broll, Alex Isa, One-Eyed Wiley, Maddie Doman, Metamaniac, All Hail Eris, Ave Lunam, The Narcissist Cookbook, Yarrow 12, Azio Batoon, Guybrush, Lim Payne, Imcoy, Hazelpup, Lake, Eva Knight, Mr. Cocaco, Gwen T, Shay Theus, Nomad Delilah Jester, Bjorb, Lily Loons, tripping all over my words, Lily Leones, Neris, Fia, Sean Hamilton, Charlotte, Rio, Laura M, Atheist, Sylvan Pasco, Joannis, Arta Aurelia, Vega Nelson, Demise, Mia Maple, Nicole, George Rosenbaum, Neurofilter, I'm sorry I forgot to say your name, my bad, The Coombe Slayer, Summer Celine Garnet Midnight, Big Time Jim, Darius Fazier, Almost Dead Again, Gab, David Kaiser, Erica, Cortisol, Kay, Boya, and CeeLo. I could swear I read Summer Celine's name twice, but I'm looking over the list and I definitely did not. Weird. Again, thanks for sticking with me. I know it's been, well, I've seen some less positive responses to the last video, and I know, a lot of you have kind of been struggling, with your, quote-unquote relationship with me and my work since the last video, and, well, I appreciate those of you who, well, are willing to put faith in me. That's all there is to it. That said, it's 2 a.m., and I told Wifey that I would take her to the store to get us some coffees and stuff, so I'm gonna go do that. Everybody have a fantastic week, and I will see you tomorrow with a second video that's all about parenting. As a matter of fact, I even picked up this earlier. Just the other day I got it delivered, and it's going to be super relevant to the video, and if you know what this is, you're probably already instantly feeling some nostalgia.
It's going to be the centerpiece of tomorrow's video. So that's going to be very exciting. I'm super looking forward to this one. Another scary one. Another scary one. That's all I can say. But it's a good one. It's going to be really good. And then after that, I will move on to non-family, non-parenting related topics. I promise that this is not my entire life. It's just a big part of my life right now. And I think it's cool and unique, and I wanted to fill everyone in on it. So, suppose that's all I have to say. I will go edit this and go to bed, and everybody keep being awesome.